Hey everybody, welcome back to Soul School, and this is the first time in a while. So I was just sitting up here thinking that I've been like totally just kind of in awe. You know, I've had just different people like James Gatson and just different people that have truly blown my mind. But I got a cat in the house who's from Houston, Texas, who comes from perhaps the baddest family ever to do it as a family. You got Eloise, you got Deborah, you got Hubert, which is sick, and you got Ronnie Laws. The name should say it all. Ronnie Laws. Welcome to the show, bro.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure, bro.
Your pleasure, man. My honor, man. My honor. Yeah. This kind of one of them things. I wish I had a budget, man, to actually like, look, here's $5,000 just for you to sit down and talk to me, man. I mean, for real, man. You've done so much, man. It's been so important to the movement, and it's a trip because when you first really kind of came on the scene, well, when I first became aware of you, man, was that early '70s movement. And people would think that Philly Soul, MFSB, and all of them, who I love, Sly and them, and then P-Funk and all of them, but that movement that you were involved in was every bit as integral as anything that James Brown or anybody else did, because Roy Ayers was there, you had Larry and Fonz Mizell, you had yourself, and just, it was, Bobby Humphrey, the great Bobby Humphrey, and you were there, man. You were there.
Yeah, that was a very... I have to totally agree with you on that. That was a very special era, and in period in music, and I'm just really honored just to to have a share in that particular time, because music was very, for me personally, it was very inspirational, because you had different signatures, different personalities representing, really, the essence of our culture, really, and in other words, more eclectic. Even the programming on radio, man. I mean, you could be listening to Donald Byrd and the Blackbirds, and then Herbie Hancock, and Donald Byrd and the Crusaders. I mean, it was to me, that's what inspired me to even want to go to the record store and buy records during that time. I don't know if I can say that today.
Say anything you want to say. You say anything you want to say, brother.
But yeah, that for me, and especially growing up, you mentioned certain my mentors, really. I mean, growing up with guys in the Crusaders, which my brother was in that group. At that time, they were called the Modern Jazz Sextet. And
wow, this was before the Jazz Crusaders?
Way before then, man. These guys. I mean, I used to literally from when school was out, in elementary school, go over to the Hendersons, because that's where they would generally practice, and right behind our home. And I would just sit in the corner and watch these guys practicing and and playing. They were just teenagers, but I was the little ruddy kid, just just absorbing all this. Sitting in the corner and just my eyes wide open and ears wide open and just absorbing everything they were doing, man. Because to me, they represented the community as far as music. And they ventured out and made a huge career for themselves, man.
Shoot, them cats had made a huge career in more than just doing the Crusader stuff. For those you don't know, those cats were great session players. The Jackson 5, the Love You Save, and all that stuff. The Sound Factory, that's Wilton Felder on bass. Let's Get It On album, Wilton Felder, Joe Sample, Dancing Machine, Joe Sample. I mean, them cats, the Crusaders' career is one thing. But when you start looking at the body of work that them cats did, it's a whole nother thing. I just couldn't imagine. And Wayne Henderson, man, you growing up with them kind of, I could imagine how you were just affected. You just said it, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great, environment, musically, and they were good role models for me, and and I followed their footsteps closely, and and then I had other inspirational people around me, and my mom was. Really, she really disclosed and put in front of us all different genres of music, from gospel to blues. I mean, my mom was a heavy blues, she person, and we would wake up to that. but literally before going to school. I mean, we would listen to B.B. King and Muddy Waters. I mean, seriously. So, and then, that was, she appreciated classical music, and then she introduced, the real, legendary jazz figures like Ella Fitzgerald, Ray Charles, and B.B. King, Interestingly, my first debut as a solo artist was opening up for B.B. King. So you can imagine how I felt, listening to him as a kid, growing up on his music and having the privilege of sharing the same stage with him. That was my first debut as a solo artist, was opening up for B.B. King at the Coconut Grove in Los Angeles. 3 nights. I mean, that was unbelievable. My mom was in the audience, so you can imagine how she felt.
That's why your playing is so insane. That's why your playing is so insane, man. Man, your mental makeup is crazy, man. Now, speaking on Los Angeles, when did you leave Houston to transition to Los Angeles? Was it like late 60s or?
Well, yeah, no, it was actually early 70s. In fact, in 1970. But even prior to that, though, I mean, I had had such a wealth of experiences, playing. When I was 12 years old, man, I was playing in a club with Kenny Rogers, the country singer, and then, growing up, playing in all the local, jazz, bands, and in high school, that was the first, when they integrated the school area district in Houston. We had no choice but to integrate with other schools. I wanted to go to one of the legendary black high schools, Kashmere Garden, that featured some phenomenal players, and then Conrad Johnson was, the iconic music, teacher in Houston. And so I wanted to go there, but I had to go to Robert E. Lee High School. And that was a real culture shock because prior to going there, I really had to really adjust to a whole different kind of mindset as far as music. First of all, I was self-taught prior to that, through junior high school. I mean, I taught myself how to play and read, but I wasn't a good reader at that point. So in trying to enter the music program at Robert E. Lee, I auditioned, and, the band director, he immediately recognized that I had a problem with reading. And his name was Edwin Trongoni. He was from Boston. Great man. I mean, because he auditioned me, and he said, "Okay, don't worry about that." He said, "Just play something for me. Just play, play what you just play, Yeah. So, unbeknownst to him, I had mastered the solo of Take 5. Paul Desmond. I mean, note for note, and I played it, and he was mesmerized. He couldn't believe it, because I mean, I verbatim I played it, and he said, "Listen, if you meet me early in the morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll teach you how to read. I'll come in early and we'll work on that." Sure enough, I followed through on that. Next semester, I was able to qualify for the concert orchestra and the jazz stage band, and actually I was the first black to integrate the whole music area
Wow.
music department at
Wow.
Robert E. Lee. Life is really interesting because where I wanted to go originally probably would have served me well, but this situation really challenged me more so to the point that I was put in an environment where I had to either sink or swim, and as it turned out, it really opened the field for other guys in the community to be involved in the music program at Lee, and just so happened that music program, because of Trongoni, the band director, was the #1 music program in the whole state of Texas.
Wow.
It's very interesting,
Wow.
So we'd win competition, and in fact we even competed with Kashmir. And the band director, Conrad Johnson, he would always say, "Man, I tried to get you to come to Kashmir." He said, "When I used to see you in competition with us, it just made me sick." Because I was winning all kind of awards, outstanding musician awards, but that that experience really, propelled me and launched me into a whole nother realm of music, appreciation and discipline and playing and the whole thing. And I really have to give a lot of thanks to Edward Trongoni. I mean, he opened the doors for me, and it's really interesting because during that time, when I was competing and in the music program, the principal of the school hated it. In fact, he even instruct the band, Trongoni, not to feature me. Because every weekend, we'd be competing, come back winning all kind of awards, and they would announce that, Monday morning, over the PA that, Ronnie Laws won Outstanding Musician, and this guy was a real racist, and the principal was, rather. But Trongoni protected me. He never even shared with the pressure that he was getting from the principal until I invited him to lunch when I did my first album, Precious Sensitive. Went back to Houston and looked him up and invited him to lunch, and he disclosed that to me. So, he was really in his own way trying to.
Wow, you found out that many years later?
Yeah, I mean, he shared with me. He said, I didn't want to really stunt your spirit, and because you were achieving a lot. And I didn't, but I never disclosed to you the pressure that I was getting from the principal, not to feature you. So
Ronnie Laws and pressure. That's for real. That's real talk. Ronnie Laws and pressure.
Yeah,